Hi, everyone. I am so happy to be back on the microphone. I am sneaking off to record this episode in between baby's nap time because I know it has been a while since I've dropped an episode. It's just been a really crazy couple of months. Early motherhood has been amazing, and then also just a total mind twister. I've had to really reckon with how time works because I don't understand how 4 months ago I had a tiny little human in my arms, and now I've got this social being who's expressing needs, and he's 4 months today. And let me tell you, for anyone who hasn't been around newborns before or hasn't had a baby or like this was a totally new experience for me. I didn't grow up around children. There was nobody to really model this off of. So you have this tiny newborn, you bring the newborn home, and then from 0 to 2 months, I mean, you're having fun with them, but they're not really playing. They're just kind of eating, pooping, sleeping, and doing that around the clock. There's no schedule. You're just kind of in this newborn haze, a newborn bubble. And then something happened at around 2.5 months where I was like, whoa, this is taking way more out of me than I really was expecting. My husband returned back to work, and he had a bit of traveling to do for a new job that he took. But that wasn't it. It was more like, I can't step away from this baby for a second because I feel like he's going to grow so quickly. They tell you in the beginning, enjoy every moment, enjoy every moment. It's really difficult to do that in the newborn stage because you are kind of in this like hazy survival mode. And there's just something that triggered at around 2.5 months where I thought to myself, oh my God, if I step away for just like 5 minutes, I'm going to miss it. I'm going to miss it. He's going to grow. He's just changed so much in the last 2 months that every time I went to, there's also no schedule. So there's still like getting the hang of things. And, the sleep training doesn't really happen, I guess, until the 4-month point, which is where I'm at today. He's actually 4 months today. So today is the first opportunity I could even have some semblance of some personal time to come sit down and record. He's not really a demanding baby, but I do notice that the days that I focus a lot of my attention on him and like fulfill his needs, the more chill and easygoing he is, which is nice because I have been able to get out of the house, and I take him to the store and like we run errands together, and it's no problem. It's not like he's having meltdowns in public yet. But the days that I don't want to say ignore him, but like I force him to do maybe a little bit more solo playtime than he wants to do, or I'm not like immediately there to we do elimination communication, which means that I take him to the potty. So the days that I don't necessarily pay attention to his movements and take him to the potty, he'll lose it. And then they're still learning how to regulate their emotions. So he just gets like over emotional about everything. And I'm just less productive in the end. So it sounds counterintuitive, but the days that I dedicate my sole attention to him and I don't try to multitask, let's put it that way, I don't try to multitask, are better days. And then the days where I'm juggling home projects or he's getting a lot of solo tummy time and I'm not necessarily like right there with him, I end up starting a lot of projects around the house and not finishing any of them, which doesn't really help anyone. So I just got to a point, I knew I had to take August off because my husband was starting a new job and we were going to be transitioning as a family, one less person helping around the house. It was me on my own with all the animals and the everyday chores and everything. I also had to take some time to start our fall garden because I think I finally figured out where stuff grows around my property. Anyone who gardens or grows their own food, they know it takes a couple of years to really dial it in and nail it down. And now that we've been through a few seasons here, I figured out where my veggies were going to grow the best. So I had to that was a lot of effort. I had to move some garden boxes and fill with compost and plan out I'm doing square foot gardening method. So I had to plan out where all the plants were so I could do some succession planting and actually try to get stuff going through the late summer and the fall. So that was a really big project on my plate that I finally got done. And then September rolled around and I don't know what happened. I would step away from baby and try to take some personal time, and I would feel bad. It's like that Aerosmith song. I don't want to miss a thing. I don't want to miss it. I love him. I really enjoy being around him. Babies, especially this age, the 3 to 4 month range. It's so perfect. And that's all I can really describe it as. It's just such a perfect time in a human's evolution. So I decided to just lean into, not that I'm totally ignoring my own needs or self-care or anything. I don't want it to sound that way. I just have this deep need to really get anything that was extra off of my plate so that I could focus on me, focus on him, and just be really present, because I can't get over how fast the last 4 months have gone. I mean, I feel like I was pregnant yesterday. So they said it would happen. You don't really think about it until you're there and you're in it. But it really is going by so fast. And I don't want to look back at this time and think to myself, what was I doing that was so much more important than just really soaking up this little human? I mean, he's funny. He's giggling now. I love reading all the baby books. Some of them really choke me up. And they remind me of a simpler time. And they remind me of the lessons that I can't wait to teach him as he grows into an adult. And I don't know, he's my little man. So that's kind of the reason for the longer hiatus. Not that anyone was really asking, but I'm back. I've had a lot on my mind. So the one thing that I will say is I do get to, this is a period of my life where I get the opportunity to really absorb and dive into my interests, because in my downtime, I've got a podcast in my ear. I've got audiobook in my ear. I'm reading a lot. Because we're trying to limit screens around him, I'm not necessarily on my phone all the time. We're going for walks. We're in baby classes. We're setting up little meetups with other moms. We're going to the park. So I'm out and about. I'm able to observe life a little bit more from this new perspective where I'm sitting in motherhood. So I think that's just kind of, I've been struggling. I think when I started this podcast, I was thinking to myself, yeah, I'm going to take this and I'm going to run with it and see what happens. And I think every time I go through some new experience, I'm always thinking how can I monetize this? And I'm learning now that that's not necessarily the best mentality. I think I got to the end of my pregnancy. I brought this life into the world, and now I'm thinking, is this it? But now I'm rephrasing that. I'm saying, no, this is it. This is it. I get to do this. I get to be home. I'm in unfortunately, we have to call it a privileged position where I don't have to work. I get to be home with him. It's something that I've always, if I was going to have children, it's something I always said that I wanted. I didn't want to be distracted. I don't really need anything else. And that's kind of what inspired this episode today. When I got to the end of my pregnancy, I thought, I got to be working on my next thing. My project is over. I baked a baby. I got the baby out. What's my next project? And I thought, why? I've done this before. I think I touched on it in an earlier episode when we talked about big shifts, where you load a bunch of stuff onto your plate and then you figure out, it's not necessarily where I want to be heading. But why do we always have this need to be desiring more? Why can't we just, when you reach your goal, in this case, I'm referring to my most recent goal, which was getting through birth and bringing home a healthy baby. Why is it so hard for us to just sit in that and the satisfaction of yeah, I did that and now I'm here? Where does this impetus come for just what's my next step? Why is that hustle underlying everything? And I have been sitting, I've been getting back into my meditation practice, and I've been sitting a lot with this question, like, why are we always desiring more? And I think when we first introduced that question, we're thinking of like money or material things. And while that has a part to play in it, I just kind of want to go through some of the reasons why this continually comes up for me. And I'm pretty sure if you're someone who's goal oriented or someone who is just like an endless pursuer of life, this has most likely come up for you too. So that's our topic today. Why are we always desiring for more? Let's get into it.
Welcome, wisdom seekers, to the Gathering Wisdom podcast, knowledge for the new paradigm, with me, your host, Robin in the Wild. We're living through some truly transformational times, and if you're anything like me, you're craving ways to cultivate a more conscious and soul-driven life. Join me weekly as we explore a rich tapestry of topics, ranging from mindfulness magic, the science behind the woo, tips for sustainable living, and so much more. Together, we can illuminate the path to a brighter future and guide each other to a more empowered, resilient, and juicy life, one episode at a time.
The desire for more is a distinctly human experience. And the reason I'm offering this podcast episode today, or there's a couple of reasons. It's something I'm personally grappling with right now. I'm trying to sit with where I'm at in this new stage of life, because all of my basic needs are met. And it doesn't mean that I don't want to stop growing. It just means I have to stop looking outside of my current life that I just got done building. There's nothing wrong with wanting to level up, but I think when people don't have certain tools in their toolkit, this is the kind of stuff that can lead to addiction, or like you feel like you're constantly filling a hole, because there is some neuroscience behind this. I mean, we are pleasure-seeking creatures, and there are dopamine effects. Our bodies become addicted to just the constant need for more, whether that's knowledge, money, things. There's this really awesome Medium article that I'm going to link in the show notes that I used as part of my reference. He's a PhD, and he offers some I guess the psychological, societal, and evolutionary reasons that kind of contribute to why we're always wanting more. And then I'm going to talk a little bit about the spiritual perspective of it all. But essentially, we're humans, we're survival driven. And I guess from an evolutionary standpoint, we are constantly driven to secure more and more resources. So it's something that our ancestors did. It's a part of our, however long humans have been around, it's part of our lineage. It's embedded in our DNA. And just having more things was just consistently passed down and ingrained in us. It's a deep-seated motivation to constantly have more than enough, because more than enough equaled security and survival. That all kind of rolls into our social complexes. So because we have these social structures, the people who did have more they had a higher social status, and that was often equated with success and happiness. This is all stuff that just, it goes without saying, but these are the patterns that our ancestors set up for us that now sometimes make it impossible for people to just be happy with what they have. So we are fighting a little bit of our instincts and our DNA here. So there's an evolutionary component, there's the social comparison, and then here's the interesting part. There's something called the hedonic treadmill or hedonic adaptation. And Laurie Santos, who teaches the happiness class at Yale, the famed happiness class, she offers an online version of this as well in Coursera, and it's free. And I'm going to link that in my show notes as well. It's like a 8-week self-paced program. You listen to her lectures. You kind of get to pretend like you're a college student again. She gives you a series of exercises to work on in the week. And she does help you rewire your brain a little bit for happiness. She gives you a lot of things to think about. And so she, in that lecture talks about hedonic adaptation, or the hedonic treadmill. So psychologically speaking, we adapt to new circumstances and experiences rather easily. So this has essentially been part of our survival. But it also kind of lends to this insatiable desire to constantly be having more. So the hedonic treadmill essentially refers to the phenomenon where we're able to really quickly adapt to positive life changes, and there's a diminishing sense of satisfaction over time. And this is what she tells her students. So you're going to be just as happy making $75,000 as you are making $150,000. And I know a lot of you are thinking, but that's double what I'd be making. Of course, my life would be enhanced if I was making more. From a happiness perspective, you're going to be just as happy, because with more money there's more lifestyle creep, and you're going to be constantly looking for new sources of stimulation and fulfillment. You're going to be spending that money to, you're essentially just perpetuating the pursuit for more. So once you have enough to live off of that you're comfortable on and you're not struggling, any new positive impact on your salary or your status in life, you're generally going to experience the same level of happiness. Which leads me to, the influences of society and culture. It's no surprise that we live in a consumer-fueled culture, and there's millions of messages being fed to you and programmed to you every day for this, like you're not enough, right? You need to be skinnier, and you need clearer skin, and you need shinier hair, and you need this, and you need that. And we've got, the Amazon Prime days, and you need a newer computer, and you need the latest iPhone and a newer car, and blah, blah, blah. And it goes on and on and on. And it's not like that in different cultures. So it just depends on where you're coming from. Other cultures preach living off the land. And I think those that are closer to nature, and that's ingrained in their societies and in their social complexes, are the ones that are not constantly seeking material things. I just had some international students from Nigeria rent my apartment, and I feel like the last few tenants that I've had, I just wasn't able to make them happy, because no matter the expectation I set for my place, I offer clean, simple, affordable housing. They came from just a different expectation level or standard, and I don't know if they just didn't do their research, or maybe I didn't do a good enough job. I don't advertise falsely. I'm very honest about my building and what it's like living there. But I just feel like the last couple of people that rented from me, couldn't make them happy. And these Nigerian students are like, whoa, they're on cloud nine, and they're going to have a very comfortable place to stay for they're on a visa through the rest of the year at the local university. So it just kind of depends on, it's not always your fault, but you might have some cultural deprogramming to do just as a result of where you grew up around the globe. And then there's also the quest for personal fulfillment and growth. So if I'm a very, I don't want to say I'm a goal-oriented person, but I love learning and I love trying new things. It's my favorite thing. My favorite thing to study is myself. And I'm constantly looking for ways to seek out learning opportunities. And for some people, that might be setting goals and then improving. And I'm going to do a whole episode at some point on goal setting and why we need to be less performative. And we really need to revisit our values to set these goals, because you do go through a little bit of a depression once you meet the goal. It goes back to the hedonic adaptation. You thought you were going to be happier meeting the goal, but at the end of the day, you're just as happy as you were before you met the goal. Now, this doesn't mean that you should stop growing. It just means that you have to reframe it so that you don't go through this, this depression when you accomplish your goal. So it's okay to set your sights on bigger and brighter things, but that you have to understand you're still in a cycle of pursuit when you do that. And now for the spiritual perspective. So I'm a student of Vedic meditation, which is a form of transcendental meditation, the meditation style that was brought over to the States by Maharishi Mahesh Yogi in the 60s. Think Beatles. And a lot of people studied TM in the 60s and the 70s and still today. The reason I like it as a meditation technique, it not only has the Vedic philosophy, the worldview brought me a lot of clarity on what we're all doing here as humans. Veda meaning the body of knowledge from ancient India. And let's just say if it wasn't for this style of meditation and really getting into this practice, my son would not be here because there was a lot going on. And once I pierced that veil, I transcended thought into what I now know as being a part or feeling connected to the vast unified field of consciousness, which is something that quantum physicists are looking to prove. We are surrounded by what is known as the unified field of consciousness, and we have to get to a point with our human nervous system so that we are integrated enough within our mind to be able to experience and touch the full value of this unified field that surrounds us, that we're connected to, where all possibilities are possible. And this is why the mind is drawn towards transcendence. And this is what is taught when you're a student of this meditation style. It's also talked about a lot in a lot of different spiritual traditions. And this is something that we're all waking up. We're waking up, and this is the Great Awakening. This is starting to be accepted, that this is what it means like when you're guided by the universe. When you have a relationship with the universe, you acknowledge that you are the universe and the universe is you. We're just one little wave in this giant ocean of consciousness. And after being on this spiritual journey for a while now, I truly believe that our souls chose to come here, especially after meeting my son. That was no accident. I mean, he is my son. He is a whole person, and he was just waiting for an opening in order to come inhabit a body. We all were waiting for an opening. We were floating around in this field of consciousness and had the opportunity to be here, to inhabit a body, to experience the full condition of being human, and to remember that our mission, our purpose here is to evolve, whether that means working through soul contracts that we set up before even coming here, or setting up experiences to have in the human body. The purpose of life is to evolve. That's why we're here. We're here to evolve past whatever consciousness that we've been through in a previous life. And so by gaining more knowledge, experiences, this all expands our consciousness. And in a beautiful way, as humans, we're wired towards more. We have this desire for more because we have a desire to continually feel expanded. And what we mess up is that we seek expansion through our senses, which ends up resulting in material things, experiences. But really, what we need to do is be channeling this inward, transcending our thoughts, and seeking more expansion by connecting to this field. And that is, then you're connected to you're connected to consciousness. And the more consciousness you have, the more you're able to practice this, the bigger you feel and the less limited you feel. And that's when you get into the magic, where people start talking about being able to manifest things out of nowhere and, the flow. And that's not to say that you never have a bad day or that things don't go wrong, but you just remember that everything is happening for you, because that is your purpose. That is your purpose here. Your purpose here is to experience things you can only experience as a person and to evolve past them into consciousness. And I really would, like I said, I really would like to have my meditation teacher here one day. But what this meditation style has to do with all of this is it's a vehicle to help get you there on a more consistent basis. because with the mantra is charming to the mind. It's a very simple vibrational tone that you're sending out to the universe, and the brain follows the mantra into this transcendent layer of consciousness where you're then able to tap into it. And really, it just feels like nothing. There's no thoughts. You've transcended thought and you're just connected to this feeling of bliss. And that is where inner contentment comes from. Just feeling whole, one, and complete as a wave in this unified field. For anyone who's that perspective does not work for you, then I'm going to offer some other tips, some other ways to shift your mindset and strategies to help you be okay with where you're at and ceasing that incessant drive to continuously have more and move in, like shifting into a way of operating where you just feel more. You feel like you can just be more. The first tip is to cultivate gratitude. So have an ongoing gratitude practice and focus on just being appreciative and grateful for what you already have and where you already are. So take some time each day and just acknowledge the abundance that surrounds you. The other thing you can do is cultivate more mindfulness practices. So engage in feeling mindful, keeping present, hence meditation, breathing exercises. Breath work is amazing for this. Something that can just help you reduce your attachment to those impulses and your desires, and just finding contentment in the sweet, ever blessed present moment. The other thing you can do, and revisit this continuously, is just define your values and reflect on them a lot, because your values are going to help drive what the priorities are in your life. Clarify what truly matters and help align your goals and your actions to them. Because when you do this, you're focusing on what's meaningful to you, and you can shift your attention away from stuff that is just a distraction or the accumulation of stuff. The other thing that's important to remember is to set realistic goals. So instead of constantly trying to pursue more, set meaningful and achievable goals that are aligned with your values so that you can be given a sense of purpose and progress without feeling like you are falling into the trap of never-ending desires. Practice some self-compassion. So be kind to yourself, self-acceptance, recognize that your desires are natural. They're innate to our human condition, but also remind yourself that external possessions and achievements are not definitive of your worth. Watch what material you're consuming and limit your exposure to consumeristic influences. Maybe check what you're consuming on social media. Just these messages that surround us that more is better, they're everywhere. So surround yourself with like-minded individuals, watch what you consume, and be sure that you're prioritizing things that are aligned with your values. Everything goes back to values. Embrace simplicity. So find joy in embracing a simpler lifestyle. Focus on experiences, relationships, personal growth rather than possessions. Simplifying your life. Oh, I can attest to this. Just I'm in it now where I just have this deep craving to just purge and simplify my life, getting things off of my plate. I had some reach goals, this podcast included. Like I had no guarantees on like where this is going to go. I think this just needs to turn into a very healthy and creative outlet for me rather than some goal. I had some really lofty plans for what I was going to do with this. And I think this is more just something I do for me. If my son listens to this one day, then that would be awesome. I feel like I'm leaving a little legacy. And if this helps even just one or two other people along the way, hey, I feel like I've reached the podcast has reached its purpose. And the last thing is just to practice detachment. Nothing will help you practice detachment quicker than owning a cat. He's helped me foster a healthy detachment from things and outcomes. I'm just kidding. I'm joking. But he does, if there's anything on the counter, he will knock it over. That's his favorite thing to do. So I've learned over time, he has a hankering for knocking stuff off and breaking it. I can't tell you how many things have broken. This is why we can't have nice things. But like a cat, just understand that things can come and things can get taken away. And having a healthy detachment from material possessions and even outcomes, not like really banking on one thing to happen and trying to control it in all instances. That's not where true happiness comes from. It comes from feeling internally whole and emotionally fulfilled. So these are definitely tools to start cultivating, to have in your toolkit. That drive to continuously seek more in terms of, material possessions and even goals. It creates unhealthy addictions, and people who are not, well adjusted find themselves in a cycle that it never ends, and it ends up leaving you feeling. Anyway, that's all I got for now. Baby is going to be waking up any minute. I love hearing from you guys. So please write a review. If you feel compelled, send me an email, hey@RobinInTheWild. You can also find me on Instagram, probably most often, at Robin_in_Wild with dots in between. You'll be able to find me. And I have released all expectations and outcomes for this podcast at this point. This is a healthy outlet for me. It's a way for me to build community and a way for me to kind of just process all of the things that I'm going through as I'm still navigating my spiritual awakening. So I'm looking forward to continuing to raise the vibration and just kind of put out there all of the insights that I've been gaining along the way. And if you found it valuable to you, I would love to hear from you. I'd love to hear your perspective or understand how this podcast may have helped you. Anyway, that's the end of baby's nap time, which means I gotta go. I'm looking forward to releasing more episodes on a more consistent basis. I'm craving it. He's on a schedule. He's getting there. I'm through the thick of it, and I'm craving routine. So hopefully I'll be back again next week with another enlightened episode for you all. Until then, stay curious.
Thank you for joining me. If this week's topic resonated with you, you can help keep the wisdom flowing by following and sharing with a loved one or fellow seeker. If there's a topic you'd like me to explore or to be a guest on Gathering Wisdom, feel free to reach me at hey@RobinInTheWild.com. Until next time, stay curious.